They want to go quick with Hogan to the rack and one. Flush, chucks it up, it's caught! Dagger!
Oh, she's gonna hit the gas. One-on-one, boom!
Hello and welcome back for Season 2, Episode 2 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. I'm biased as always, but I thought we kicked off Season 2 on a hot note. We got a great repeat guest on, and although the standings of his bracket pool wouldn't reflect that currently, Zach Metz, formerly of the Upgood and Waldo podcast, hit you over the head with a ton of ball knowledge. That's the best part about March, though. There will be chaos, and there will be people who kind of just pick mascots and pick the team colors that they like or something, and then they'll end up killing it in the bracket. I will touch a little bit more on the March Madness tourney today. We also got through quarterbacks in this year's NFL free agency for the most part, which is cool, but there's another big signing that I want to talk about and see if I can figure out what the Giants were thinking this time. I thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers for them. Now it appears after this week, not so, and there's still the draft to think about. From the day this comes out, there's right about 4 weeks until that draft starts, and everyone has more questions than answers right now. Because next week's going to be the start of April and we sort of have to be fully on to spring sports, let's start with March Madness today. I would thank Zach Metz directly, but again, in his own bracket pool of something like 84, I'm sitting in 6th with 40 of 48 correct picks so far, and he finds himself tied for 37th with 33. Yeah, them's the facts. Now, I'm going to throw out my biggest trusts and busts from the first couple of rounds. You got to believe in the trusts that they'll go at least as far as you took them in your bracket, and of course, with the busts, if you had any of them making deep runs, you might as well shred that thing right now. My first trust is a 2 seed that got pushed more than almost any other, and they were actually on the ropes early in both of their first 2 rounds. All bias aside, as both of my parents went there, and it's one of the closer schools to me, it's what I grew up rooting for, it's the Michigan State Spartans. The 2 and 15 seed games in the first round, those are supposed to be automatic, and the 2 seed is never supposed to lose. But the Bryant Bulldogs of all teams, they were only down 5 at the half, and they had defensive numbers a lot of coaches would be happy with. They blocked 5 shots, forced 11 turnovers with 5 steals, and then they shot 1 of 11 from 3 in the second half, and they gave up 54 points. Michigan State is a notoriously bad three-point shooting team. You've probably heard the broadcast crews in both rounds. They were telling you how this is the worst shooting team in the Big Ten, and it was on display again. And that isn't supposed to be how you win basketball games anymore, but it really does make them share the ball and move it a ton. They're 3rd in the country in fast break points, and they spread it around. 1, because they don't have any superstars, but 2, because they're extremely unselfish. You never know who's going to star for them in any given game. Plus, it's Tom Izzo. What more do we need to say? He's now made the Sweet 16 times. He's only 1 win away from another 30-win season. That would be his 6th. Trust MSU, and they have a decent matchup with 6-seed Ole Miss on Friday night. The biggest bust of the tourney so far has to be St. John's. Another living legend of a coach in Rick Pitino over there, but what good did it do him? Again, the first round for a 2 seed is supposed to be automatic, and they got through that. The second round kinda should be too, especially when it's a 2 versus a 10. Maybe, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a break here, maybe it speaks to the complete dominance the SEC has over any other conference, that the 10-seed Arkansas beat St. John's 75-66. Every team has a bad shooting night occasionally, but you can't really win any game ever shooting 20 of 75 from the floor and 2 of 22 from 3. Blech. Pitino won 31 games, he's a Coach of the Year finalist, and yet I suspect no one is going to care because of how high the expectations were. I saw a few people taking St. John's as their champions. If that's you, you should really light your bracket on fire. Then you should probably find some distance from the tourney altogether. Go find your nirvana, pick up a hobby, some meditation or yoga, something calming. St. John's in that second round game had 28 offensive rebounds. Let me say that again, not 28 total, 28 rebounds just on offense. And they still only scored 66 points against a team that went 8-10 in their own conference. This year's SEC, and everybody has said this, it is the best single-season conference probably ever. And as more of a casual college basketball fan, I would have to agree. As a conference, they now have 7 of the 16 remaining teams, which is another all-time record, you might guess, after they had 14 teams make the tourney originally. St. John's, though, you are the biggest bust of the tourney so far. I think we'll do 2 of each because if you want 38 minutes of almost entirely the tourney, we already gave that to you last week. My next trust is going to be Florida. They beat the back-to-back champs UConn in the round of 32. Barely. 2-point game. Most years, an 8 seed with 24 wins on the year from a not-so-dominant Big East wouldn't have been very scary, but they have some holdovers from those national championship teams, and they still have Dan Hurley at the helm. The most important thing Florida did was not blink late in the second half. They also shot 34 free throws in that game, which was bonkers. Even though UConn had 22 attempts as well, Florida still outscored them at the line by 3. It's kind of hard to lose a game shooting 34 free throws when you think about it, although they did only make them at a 64% clip, which you'd love to see up a little tick. I also trust Florida a ton because they have one of the best closers in this tournament, Walter Clayton Jr. You like combo guards that can block shots, get deflections, run the floor, who are essentially 4-year starters, who can shoot the lights out from 3 and at the free throw line. This is your guy. He's played in 135 games now in his career, and the experience was super clear in the last few minutes versus UConn. Not a surprise at all, but Clayton was a first-team All-American and was maybe the number one reason that Florida went 32-4 and why they got a 1 seed. Oh, and as a whole team, Florida's third in the nation in scoring, behind only Alabama and Gonzaga. I am a tad bit biased because this is my champion in my bracket, but it looks good so far. I wouldn't be surprised if the UConn game is the toughest one they play up until that championship game. Still, we cross our fingers, but we trust in the Gators. Fortunately for just about everyone's brackets, there aren't that many massive busts yet. 3 out of the 4 2 seeds are intact. Of course, all the 1 seeds got through. Wisconsin was maybe mildly disappointing. They lost to 6 seed BYU in the round of 32. I think I'm going to go with Iowa State here for the second bust. They also had a 3 versus 6 seed matchup with Ole Miss. They're kind of in the tourney almost every year, right? But they really get dwarfed by the top teams in the Big 12. So I think there's going to be great arguments to be made when this thing is all said and done that they should have been a little lower than a 3 seed. They have to play Houston, Texas Tech, BYU, and Arizona in their regular season conference schedule. So you'd have thought they'd be a little bit more ready for Ole Miss. Anyway, it may have just come down to season-long fatigue for Iowa State. If Michigan State smacks Ole Miss like I'm hoping they do, I think that's going to prove it. Iowa State went down 11 at the half, and they sort of folded shortly after that because they could never really force a bunch of turnovers or get stops in a row and make a run. I don't believe that game got under double figures after the first couple of minutes in the second half. As many good, highly experienced players as they have, guys that have been in the tourney before, it felt like they should have been able to make it further than the round of 32 at least. Iowa State, if you're in a 3-6 matchup and you lose and get kind of handled, you are a bust, but it could be a whole lot worse for you, for your season, and for everybody's brackets. That's all for the tourney until next week. The first Sweet 16 games are on Thursday, and I just heard the point total for BYU Alabama is the highest total for a tourney game since 2000 at 175.5. If you like the 3-point shooting contest kind of game, that'll be the one for you. My Final Four is intact, that's all I know. Good luck to you in your bracket this next round. Now I'm going to finish this week out looking at NFL free agency again because there were a handful of big names still out there, and I still need to know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't. It is so annoying that we have to hear so much about him for almost the third offseason in a row, really, and it shows how incredibly different he has lived his football life from pretty much everybody else. The domino that fell in front of him in sort of the line of quarterbacks is what I want to focus on first. Russell Wilson is the Giants' new quarterback. I say that, but what I mean is he is a new Giants quarterback. That precludes one team, the Giants, from getting Rodgers, which is, of course, where I thought he was going to go at first. But what it does not do is preclude the Giants from still looking to add depth somewhere. The terms on Russ's deal are so bizarre to me. He's only signing for 1 year and $10.5 million, although there are a lot of incentives that can take it up to $21 million. I wouldn't count on him hitting all of those, but at the same time, how many times do I need to say this? Russ is going to end up squeaking into the Hall of Fame. He's been to 10 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowls, and won one, 381 total touchdowns to 111 interceptions. Is he amazing or say top 5 all time? No, but he's just in that second tier of quarterbacks where I really don't think he's going to be left out of the Hall of Fame. So why does he only get $10.5 million if the market for starters is starting to move toward, 50 mil? I can't see any other reason besides the Giants still planning to bring in someone else. It seems to me that they should do it in the draft, and Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are going to be the top QBs. We know that. So I think New York has to take whichever of them is left to compete with Russ for the starting job. If it were Aaron Rodgers that the Giants had landed, I would have maybe not been certain, because let's say Rodgers fails miserably and they have another terrible season, you can still just wait for whoever the top quarterback is to come out of the draft next year. 5 years ago, before he left Seattle, I would have told you Russ could beat out any rookie. But now he'll be turning 37 mid-season. Yeah, maybe not so much. The need here wasn't the most obvious, but at minimum, New York did get one of the most experienced and accomplished vet QBs probably ever at this point in their career. And although Russ is weird, he is still that same caliber of leader that he's always been. I still think they're going to turn the keys over to whoever they draft, but I see where the Giants' heads are at. The much more expensive and more risky move I heard about on Tuesday was the Patriots signing Stefon Diggs. How does 3 years at 69 mil sound? There was a time when injuries would completely tank a lot of players' value when they tested the market, but it just seems like that time's come and gone. Diggs tore his ACL 5 months ago, and he's 31 years old. We know that historically, after about 32, the odds of a receiver even staying on a roster are low, let alone producing anything at all. He's a lot more borderline in his Hall of Fame argument, I think, than Russell Wilson. 10K yards and 70 touchdowns, it's a great start for 10 years in, but I think it's hard to imagine him having a ton of juice left and really meshing nicely with the Patriots' offensive system, or lack thereof, and not letting the frustrations get to him. There's going to be struggles in that offense, right? Diggs' number one issue is between his ears, as it always has been, because I still think he has top 5 hands in the league. He has good route running. He can make the circus catches. If everywhere you go, though, the drama follows you, the team should start asking some questions. Funny enough, I don't mind Diggs' numbers from last year at all. He was a second to third-ish option in the passing offense with the Texans, and he went for 6 catches a game, picking up 496 yards, 3 touchdowns, in roughly 7 full games. Very good wide receiver 2 numbers, honestly, if you project that out to a full season. Nico Collins is truly the guy with the Texans now. He missed 5 games with a hamstring injury, still went over 1,000 and made the Pro Bowl. Diggs just didn't see much of an uptick in usage, and I've still never really been able to explain this when Nico Collins or even when their number 3 receiver on paper, Tank Dell, weren't so involved. It was partly a product of the Texans' offensive line just being so tragic and how difficult it was for anybody to get open because there was no time to throw. But I'm going to wager that Diggs has also lost a half step and is probably not getting as much separation too. Every organization says that they want to get a veteran receiver when they have a young quarterback. It sounds good on paper. The receiver should always be in the right spot. They can be a go-to guy in the red zone or on 3rd downs or 4th downs, all the really important times in the game. I would have trusted Amari Cooper in that role more, though, than Stefon Diggs at this point in their respective careers. Cooper is still out there on the free agent market and would have been, in all likelihood, substantially cheaper than Diggs. Do you mean to tell me that Diggs at his age is worth more per year to the Patriots than Davante Adams is to the Rams? The market is out of whack again, you know? When I think about Amari Cooper, he didn't catch many balls last year, but Josh Allen is one of the best in the league at spreading it around. And so that's completely unsurprising, I would say, especially because Allen has been without Diggs for a couple of years now. Although those two were an awesome pairing, they're now divorced and not particularly amicable. And of course, Davante Adams being one of the best paid receivers in this free agent market, he is a surefire Hall of Famer, probably a lock right now, so you see why he would command 20 plus mil a year. With Diggs, not so much. Being the better teammate sometimes trumps having the better hands or the better total receiving ability, honestly, and there's always roster construction and salary cap to factor in. The two craziest numbers, I think, in all of free agency this year, which perfectly explain this deal. The Patriots have spent the most money in free agency of any team so far and still have the most available cap for 2025 at about $73 million. That is some black magic wizardry, but I hope it works out. They've been pitiful from the moment Tom Brady left, and if they get the best out of all of the veteran additions they made, you're talking Carlton Davis at corner, Morgan Moses at tackle, Milton Williams at D-tackle, Garrett Bradbury at center. These are all pretty much quality veterans who should still have juice left. If they do get the most out of those guys, they could have a pretty big turnaround this year. However, they went 3-14 in 2024, and they have the fourth pick for a reason because they were tragic again last year. You decide. You tell me, is this all going to pay off, or are the Patriots making a massive gamble and going to lose it all? And that's a wrap on Season 2, Episode 2. I used a new mic setup for this one as I was trying to rush the episode along a little. I hope you like it, and it was a bit more convenient than what I had been using, so if the response is good, then I might keep it. As you're hearing this, I'll be in LA for the first time. I'm spending a long weekend there for a school immersion event. If anything major happens between roughly Wednesday afternoon and Friday, it's going to have to wait until next week. Number one thing I want to see while I'm out there is actually the Tigers' regular season opener at Dodger Stadium. If the tickets aren't too outrageous, I'll think about going, but if not, I'm still going to watch. Tarek Skubal on one side, reigning Cy Young, Triple Crown, on the pluckiest team in the league last year. Blake Snell on the other, getting the Dodgers opening day start. Two-time Cy Young and one of the super high-priced mercenaries everybody loves to hate, including myself. Shohei Ohtani, possibly Mookie Betts if he can start eating again and gain back all that weight from getting sick. That situation is crazy. Possibly the most accomplished active first baseman, Freddie Freeman. It should be an awesome game and series no matter how you slice it. The Sweet 16 is also going to start Thursday night, so I'll probably be forced to dual screen some of that action. As always, do all the things with the socials. I'm active on Instagram, X, Threads, LinkedIn, and through my RSS feed, you can find the episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and even iHeartRadio. Huge shout out to anybody that's found the show through any of those places, as I don't promote them nearly like I should, but I will try to be better about that. This has been Season 2, Episode 2 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
They want to go quick with Hogan to the rack and one. Flush, chucks it up, it's caught! Dagger!
Oh, she's gonna hit the gas. What I want, boom!